When you hear the word mastery, most people immediately think of controlling others, winning arguments, or being dominant in a room. But true mastery doesn't start out there. It starts in here, within yourself. Before you can lead anyone, before you can earn respect, before you can command attention, you must master you. And that's where most men fail. They chase approval. They chase validation. They chase comfort. They want quick results without discipline. But self-mastery doesn't bend to comfort. It bends to discipline, to consistency, to the ability to do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Self-mastery is waking up earlier than you want, showing up when no one's watching, and training your body and mind to act on principle, not impulse. It's not about motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Self-mastery is about discipline. Discipline means you don't negotiate with yourself. You don't ask, do I feel like it? You simply do it. You eat clean when junk food is calling your name. You train your body when laziness whispers in your ear. You stay focused when distractions are pulling at you from every direction. Self-mastery is saying no when everything in you wants to say yes. And let's be clear, this isn't about perfection. You're human. You will fail, stumble, fall short. But self-mastery means you don't stay there. You get up faster. You adjust, you learn, you sharpen. You don't let one setback define you. You don't allow weakness to become your identity. Self-mastery is building resilience into your DNA so that failure becomes fuel, not defeat. Think about the strongest men you've ever admired. Not for their money, not for their status, but for their presence. That kind of presence doesn't come from chasing others. It comes from knowing who you are and controlling yourself. Control your habits, and you control your future. Control your thoughts, and you control your actions. Control your actions, and you control the outcomes of your life. That's mastery. And if you don't master yourself, someone else will. People who can't master themselves become slaves to something. Slaves to their emotions, slaves to their cravings, slaves to their insecurities. They lash out, they overreact. They break under pressure, because they never trained their mind to hold steady. They never trained their body to endure discomfort. They never trained their spirit to stand tall when everything else is falling apart. That's the difference between a man who is easily forgotten and a man who leaves a mark. Self-mastery also requires brutal honesty with yourself. Look in the mirror and ask, am I disciplined or am I distracted? Am I consistent or am I comfortable? Am I leading myself? Or am I being led by impulses I can't control? If you can't answer those questions honestly, you can't grow. Mastery demands self-awareness. It demands that you call yourself out before anyone else has to. It demands accountability, not excuses. Every man wants respect, but few earn it. Why? Because respect doesn't come from words. It comes from self-mastery. When you walk into a room with discipline written all over you, your posture, your energy, your focus, people notice. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. And that presence is built long before you step into that room. It's built in the hours when no one is watching. When you're choosing to sharpen yourself instead of wasting time. Self-mastery is also emotional discipline. It's not about suppressing feelings, but controlling how you act on them. Anger can destroy you if you don't master it. Jealousy can weaken you if you let it guide your actions. Fear can paralyze you if you allow it to dominate your thoughts. But when you master yourself, you don't deny those emotions. You recognize them, you manage them, and you use them strategically. That's power. That's control. That's what separates a man who is ruled by his impulses from a man who commands himself. This path isn't easy. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you friends. It will cost you habits you've been holding onto for years. But everything you sacrifice in the pursuit of mastery will be replaced by strength, clarity, and resilience. You won't need validation because you'll know who you are. You won't crave attention because you'll command it without asking. You won't fear being forgotten because you'll be unforgettable in the way you carry yourself, in the discipline etched into every decision you make, in the consistency that most people will never be able to match. Would you like me to expand each of the remaining 5 keynotes? Purpose over approval, confidence through action, emotional control, respect is earned, move forward not backward in the same 700-word deep dive style. So you end up with a complete speech series. Most men spend their lives seeking approval. They want to be liked. They want to be accepted. They want the world to nod in agreement with who they are. But approval is a trap. Approval keeps you small. Approval makes you compromise, bend, and dilute yourself just to fit into what someone else expects. If you're chasing approval, you're not living your life. You're living someone else's. And a man who lives for approval will always be weak because his worth depends on other people's validation. Purpose, on the other hand, is untouchable. Purpose is bigger than opinions, bigger than criticism, bigger than rejection. Purpose means you know why you wake up every morning. It means you have a mission that drives you forward, whether people clap for you or not. Purpose makes you unstoppable because it doesn't rely on approval. It relies on conviction. Look at the men who achieve greatness. They aren't remembered because they were popular. They're remembered because they stayed loyal to their mission when no one understood them, when people doubted them, when critics tried to break them down. They didn't chase applause. They chased purpose. They knew who they were, what they stood for, and where they were going, and they didn't apologize for it. The problem is, too many men waste energy trying to please everyone. They silence their voice. They play small. They do what's safe. They follow trends instead of setting their own path. They care more about how many people approve of them, instead of how aligned they are with their mission. That's not strength. That's submission. And when you live for approval, you betray yourself. Purpose demands sacrifice. You will lose people along the way. You will be misunderstood. You will be criticized. But you cannot let that break you, because approval is temporary, while purpose is permanent. The same people who cheer for you today may turn on you tomorrow. The same people who like you now may forget you in a moment. That's why approval is worthless. It's unstable. It shifts with moods, opinions, and insecurities of others. But purpose, that doesn't shift. That doesn't fade. That doesn't depend on anyone else. When you choose purpose over approval, you develop a backbone. You stop asking for permission to be yourself. You stop waiting for people to tell you it's okay to pursue your vision. You stop caring about the noise, the chatter, the gossip, the opinions. You stay locked in on the mission that matters to you. And that's where strength comes from. Not from being accepted, but from being unshakable in your direction. Think about how much time men waste worrying about what people think. Every decision filtered through fear of judgment. What if they don't like me? What if they criticize me? What if they walk away? That kind of thinking kills potential. It keeps you mediocre. But the man with purpose doesn't ask, what if they don't approve? He asks, does this align with my mission? That's the only standard that matters. And don't mistake this for arrogance. Living with purpose isn't about ignoring people or refusing feedback. It's about knowing your core values so deeply that you don't get swayed by empty opinions. It's about holding your ground when others try to push you off track. It's about being so anchored in your mission that approval becomes irrelevant. Because when you know why you're doing what you're doing, you don't need applause to validate it. The irony is this: when you stop chasing approval and start living with purpose, people respect you more. They may not always agree with you, but they'll feel your conviction. They'll sense that you can't be bought, swayed, or manipulated. And deep down, even your critics will envy that kind of strength, because most people don't have it. Most people bend under pressure. Most people trade authenticity for approval, but the man of purpose refuses to sell out. Purpose requires clarity. It requires that you sit down with yourself and ask, what am I here for? What do I stand for? What will I not compromise, no matter what it costs? Without those answers, you will always drift. You'll chase trends, opinions, relationships, and jobs that don't align with your real mission. And then you'll wonder why you feel empty. The emptiness doesn't come from lack of approval. It comes from lack of purpose. When you lock in on your mission, when you commit to living for something greater than opinions, you stop being desperate for validation. You stop settling for less. You stop apologizing for being who you are. And you become dangerous, not because you harm others, but because you cannot be controlled. Approval can be taken away. Purpose cannot. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It isn't a gift. It isn't handed to you because you asked nicely. Confidence is forged. It's built brick by brick through action. Through doing the things that scare you, the things that challenge you, the things that force you out of your comfort zone. People make the mistake of waiting until they feel confident before taking action. That's backward. Action comes first. Confidence follows. Think about it. How many times have you hesitated because you didn't feel ready? You didn't apply for the job because you weren't confident enough. You didn't approach the opportunity because you doubted yourself. You didn't speak up because you thought you'd embarrass yourself. And yet, the only way you would have gained that confidence was by doing it anyway. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to act in spite of fear. Every time you take action, you build evidence. Evidence that you can handle more than you thought. Evidence that you can survive discomfort. Evidence that you are stronger than your doubts. That evidence stacks up inside you until one day you no longer need to convince yourself you're capable. You already know it. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from affirmations, not from empty words, but from a track record of showing up and proving yourself to yourself. And let me be clear. Action doesn't always mean winning. Sometimes you'll fail. Sometimes you'll fall flat on your face. Sometimes you'll embarrass yourself. But that's part of the process. Confidence isn't built by avoiding failure. It's built by surviving it. By realizing that failure isn't fatal, that rejection isn't the end, that a setback doesn't destroy you. Each time you face failure and keep moving, you strengthen your confidence. You stop fearing mistakes because you know you can recover from them. The men who lack confidence are usually the ones who avoid action. They stay in their heads, overthinking, doubting, replaying scenarios. They wait for the right moment. That never comes. They tell themselves stories about not being good enough, not being ready, not being capable. And because they don't act, they never gain proof to challenge those beliefs. Their lack of action becomes a prison, and the longer they stay in it, the weaker they feel. The cure is simple: move. Do the thing you're avoiding. Face the thing you're afraid of. Start where you are, with what you have, and stop waiting for permission. Every small action builds confidence. Go to the gym when you don't feel like it. Speak up in the meeting even if your voice shakes. Approach the opportunity even if rejection is possible. The more you act, the more you hardwire confidence into your system. Confidence also comes from keeping promises to yourself. When you say you're going to do something, and you actually do it, you build trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence. But when you break promises, when you say you'll wake up early, but hit snooze, when you say you'll commit, but quit halfway, you destroy your own credibility. How can you feel confident if you don't even trust yourself to follow through? Self-trust is the foundation of confidence, and self-trust is built through consistent action. Action also kills comparison. When you're moving forward, focused on your own growth, you stop worrying about who's ahead or behind you. You're too busy putting in the reps, gaining skills, sharpening yourself. But when you're idle, when you're standing still, that's when comparison eats you alive. You look around at everyone else's progress and start feeling smaller. Action eliminates that. Because when you're in motion, you don't have time to measure yourself against others. You're too focused on becoming better than you were yesterday. Understand this: confidence is not loud. It's not about pretending to be bold, faking bravado, or trying to impress people. That's insecurity dressed up in costume. Real confidence is quiet, steady, unshakable. It comes from knowing you've done the work. It comes from having faced challenges and overcome them. It comes from walking into a room without needing to prove anything, because your actions have already proven it to yourself. And confidence isn't static. You don't build it once and keep it forever. You maintain it by continuing to act, by continuing to challenge yourself, by continuing to step into discomfort. The moment you stop taking action, your confidence begins to fade. That's why growth never ends. That's why you must keep pushing, keep testing, keep putting yourself into situations that demand courage. Because courage breeds action, and action breeds confidence. Strength isn't just about muscles, status, or money. True strength is measured in how well you control yourself when emotions rise. Any man can stay calm when life is easy. The real test is what happens when anger hits, when fear creeps in, when jealousy claws at you, when temptation stands in front of you. Emotional control is the difference between a man who commands respect and a man who loses it. Understand this: your emotions are not the enemy. Anger, fear, desire, sadness, these feelings are natural. The problem comes when you let them dictate your actions. The man without control reacts. He lashes out in anger. He panics under pressure. He crumbles when things don't go his way. His emotions pull the strings, and he dances like a puppet. But the man who has trained himself to master his emotions doesn't react blindly. He responds with intention. He doesn't let the wave of feeling drown him. He rides it, directs it, and uses it as fuel. Anger, for example, can destroy you if left unchecked. How many men have ruined careers, relationships, even their own lives because they couldn't control their temper? One outburst, one careless move, one moment of losing control, and everything they built collapses. But anger, when controlled, becomes drive. It becomes fire, focus, determination. The same energy that destroys can also build, if you know how to channel it. Fear is another one. Fear paralyzes men who let it. They avoid risks, avoid opportunities, avoid growth because fear whispers in their ears, "You can't handle this, you'll fail, you're not enough." The man without control obeys that voice. But the man with control feels the fear, acknowledges it, and still takes action. He uses fear as a compass. Fear points him toward the very thing he needs to face. Emotional control doesn't mean erasing fear. It means not letting fear make decisions for you. Then there's desire. Desire is powerful. It can motivate you, but it can also enslave you. How many men throw away discipline, money, focus, even dignity, because they couldn't control desire? Whether it's lust, greed, or craving for attention. Desire without discipline leads to weakness. But controlled desire becomes hunger for growth, hunger for mastery, hunger for achievement. The key is ruling over it, not letting it rule over you. Emotional control also shows up in conflict. Weak men overreact. Someone disrespects them, and they explode. Someone criticizes them, and they crumble. Someone challenges them, and they panic. But a man with emotional control doesn't get baited. He doesn't let other people's emotions dictate his. He knows that reacting impulsively only hands power away. Silence, patience, composure, those are weapons. When you control your emotions, you control the pace, the energy, the direction of any situation. But don't mistake control for suppression. Suppressing emotions isn't strength, it's weakness in disguise. It's pretending nothing bothers you while everything festers inside until it eventually erupts. Real control isn't about hiding feelings, it's about owning them. It's about knowing what you feel, why you feel it, and then deciding how to use it. That's mastery, that's power. Building emotional control takes training. You don't wake up one day suddenly unshakable. It starts small. The urge to snap back in an argument, hold your tongue. The impulse to quit when something gets uncomfortable, stay one more round. The desire to give in to distraction, sit still and finish what you started. Every time you resist impulse, you strengthen your control. Every time you choose discipline over reaction, you train your emotions to serve you instead of sabotage you. It's also about awareness. Most men live unconscious of their triggers. They don't even realize what sets them off until it's too late. But emotional control requires you to study yourself. What makes you angry? What makes you insecure? What distracts you? Once you know your triggers, you can prepare for them. You can choose your response instead of falling into old patterns. Self-awareness is the first step to self-control. Emotional control is also contagious. When you stay calm, others calm down. When you don't panic, others steady themselves. People feel safe, focused, and grounded around someone who is in control of himself. That presence is powerful. It commands respect without a word. Because people know, if you can master yourself, you can handle anything. Every man wants respect. But most don't understand what it actually takes to earn it. They think respect comes with titles, money, or status. They think if they talk loud enough, flex hard enough, or demand it, people will give it. That's not respect. That's fear. And fear doesn't last. Real respect isn't handed out. It isn't bought. It isn't demanded. Respect is earned. And it's earned through your actions, through your consistency, through your standards. People watch what you do more than they listen to what you say. You can tell the world who you are, but the world will believe what you prove, over and over again. Respect isn't built in a moment. It's built brick by brick through how you show up daily. Respect starts with self-respect. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. That means holding yourself to a higher standard, even when no one is looking. Keeping your word, not cutting corners, doing the hard things when it would be easier to quit. A man who lacks discipline, who makes excuses, who breaks his own promises cannot expect others to respect him. Respect yourself first, and others will follow. Respect is also tied to boundaries. People respect what you protect. If you let others walk over you, if you tolerate disrespect, if you stay silent when you should speak up, don't expect anyone to treat you with value. Boundaries show people where the line is, and when you enforce that line, you earn respect. Not because you bark or fight unnecessarily, but because you stand firm. A man who doesn't enforce boundaries is a man who gets used, ignored, and forgotten. Consistency is another pillar. Respect doesn't come from one strong moment. Anyone can rise to the occasion once. Anyone can have one good day, one victory, one performance. But respect grows when people see you repeat it, again and again. When you are reliable, steady and unshakable. When they know you will show up no matter what. That kind of consistency is rare, and rare earns respect. Then there's integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing, even when it costs you. Even when no one would know otherwise. Even when it's uncomfortable. People may not always like you for it, but they will respect you. Because deep down, everyone recognizes the weight of integrity. It separates the men who bend under pressure from the men who stand tall. Respect isn't about being liked. It's about being trusted. And trust comes from integrity. Respect also comes from competence. If you want people to respect you, be good at what you do. Not average, not halfway, not just enough to get by. Master your craft. Be the man others look at and know, he takes this seriously, he's sharp, he's skilled. People may dismiss talk, but they can't dismiss results. When you deliver consistently, when you bring value, when you execute with excellence, you earn respect. But remember this, respect is not about pleasing people. If you chase approval, you may gain attention, but not respect. In fact, the more you try to please, the less people respect you. Why? Because people respect strength, not desperation. They respect someone who leads, not someone who follows the crowd. They respect the man who says no, who holds his line, who refuses to compromise his values even when it's unpopular. Respect can also be lost faster than it's earned. All it takes is one betrayal of character, one act of weakness, one failure to hold your own standards, and the respect you built begins to erode. That's why maintaining respect requires vigilance. You can't slack off. You can't let yourself slip into habits that contradict who you claim to be. Once people see you abandon your standards, they stop believing in you. And respect is never about volume. You don't have to shout, threaten, or posture to earn it. The loudest men are usually the weakest, trying to cover their insecurity with noise. True respect is quiet. It's in your presence, in your composure, in your ability to stay calm under pressure. When you walk into a room and carry yourself with discipline, strength, and self-control, people feel it. That's respect earned without a word. Respect is also reciprocal. You don't have to like everyone, but you must treat people with basic dignity. Respect doesn't mean weakness. It means strength in restraint. The man who belittles others, who constantly disrespects people to feel powerful, exposes his insecurity. The man who can treat others with fairness while still holding boundaries earns deeper respect because it shows control, not chaos. The greatest mistake men make after loss, rejection, or failure is looking backward. They replay the past like a broken record. They cling to what could have been, what should have been, what they wish had happened. They obsess over who left, who hurt them, who doubted them. But every second you spend staring behind you is a second stolen from your future. You cannot build forward momentum with your eyes locked on the past. A man who keeps looking back eventually crashes, because you can't steer forward while living in reverse. Moving forward is about refusing to be trapped by what's gone. It's about recognizing that no matter how much you analyze, no matter how much you regret, the past is fixed. You can't rewrite it. You can't negotiate with it. But you can learn from it, you can extract the lesson, and then you can use that lesson to fuel your next step. The difference between men who grow and men who stay stuck isn't the pain they experienced. It's what they did with it. The men who stay stuck repeat the cycle. They let bitterness consume them. They hold grudges like trophies. They keep telling the same story about what happened to them, instead of writing a new story about what they're becoming. That mindset keeps them chained to a version of themselves that no longer exists. But the man who chooses to move forward refuses to live there. He refuses to let one chapter define the entire book. He knows forward momentum is the only path to strength, and strength is the only path to freedom. And moving forward doesn't mean you forget. It means you don't get stuck. It means you don't let the memory of a person, a failure, or a mistake dictate your direction. If someone left you, let them go. If you failed, own it and move on. If you were betrayed, acknowledge the pain, but don't let it poison your future. Moving forward means you take back your power by refusing to let the past control the present. This requires a shift in perspective. Most men look backward because it's comfortable. The past is familiar, even if it's painful. Moving forward means stepping into the unknown. It means uncertainty, risk, new challenges. And that scares people. But strength doesn't come from repeating what's comfortable. It comes from stepping into what's uncertain and proving to yourself that you can handle it. Forward motion is where growth lives. Momentum is built through action. One step, then another, then another. You don't need to know the whole path. You don't need to have the entire picture. You just need to move. The act of moving forward builds clarity. The act of moving forward builds confidence. And the act of moving forward makes the past fade into what it truly is, a place you no longer live. Moving forward also demands focus. If you keep checking behind you, what your ex is doing, what your enemies are saying, what people from your past think, you're still trapped. Focus on you. Focus on your mission, your growth, your discipline. The best way to prove anything to anyone isn't to look back and try to convince them. It's to move forward so powerfully that the past becomes irrelevant. And let's be honest, sometimes moving forward means cutting ties. It means letting go of people who keep pulling you into old versions of yourself. Not everyone deserves access to your future. Some belong only in your past. If they keep reminding you of your mistakes, doubting your growth, or trying to hold you back, then moving forward means leaving them behind. Not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. There will be moments when the pull of the past feels strong. Memories will hit, regret will whisper. Doubt will creep in. That's normal. But emotional control ties into this. You don't let those feelings dictate your actions. You acknowledge them. But you keep moving. You keep pushing. You keep directing your energy toward building instead of revisiting what's already broken. Forward motion also breeds respect. People admire the man who keeps going, who doesn't fold under setbacks, who doesn't wallow in self-pity. They respect the one who takes hits, learns, adapts, and grows stronger. Moving forward turns wounds into wisdom. It turns rejection into resilience. It turns endings into new beginnings. Moving forward doesn't mean rushing. It doesn't mean pretending you're unaffected. It means choosing progress over stagnation. Healing, rebuilding, sharpening, those take time. But even in that process, you keep moving. You don't stay parked in bitterness. You don't let yourself rot in regret. You keep building piece by piece, day by day, step by step. And moving forward is a discipline. Every morning you wake up, you have two choices: live in yesterday or build today. One keeps you weak. The other makes you unshakable.